Joining me right now is Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. He is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, member of the Foreign Relations Committee as well. And, sir, it is good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for joining me.
Good morning.
Your reaction, Senator, to this latest vote coming out of Iran to remove all foreign, Iraq rather, to remove all foreign troops?
Well, it's a bit concerning. I hope all the Iranians would leave, but here's the point. The Iranian government is trying to basically take over Iraq's political system. Iran is bribing Iraqi politicians. To the Iraqi people, do not allow your politicians to turn Iraq into a proxy of Iran. I got to read the details of this resolution. But here's what I think would serve the world well. If President Trump laid out what he wants Iran to do to relieve sanctions. I think this has been done before, but now's the time for the president to tell the world what we would like Iran to do to get back to a normal relationship. And here's my belief. It's not unreasonable. We would like them to stop being the largest state sponsor of terrorism, stop dismembering the Mideast, stop building rockets and missiles that could destroy the region and eventually the United States. Stop being so provocative. So I wish the president would tell the Iranians, here's exactly what you need to do for the sanctions to be lifted, and allow them to make a decision based on a way forward that's good for them and the region, and see what they would do.
I mean, Senator, the president keeps saying, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, that they don't necessarily want regime change. But can you really do the things that you're talking about, change behaviors without a regime change? And how do you establish a regime change without an actual invasion?
Well, nobody's going to invade Iran. You don't need one American soldier on the ground to achieve what I'm trying to achieve. Everybody wants the regime to change. You'd have to be crazy to want it to stay the same. It's the largest state sponsor of terrorism. It threatens the existence of Israel. It supports Hezbollah with rockets and missiles to destroy Israel. They've got American blood on their hands, Iraqi blood, Syrian blood. You know, everybody wants them to change. But here's what's missing. What would it take for them to change? What kind of change do we want? Lay it out. Let the world know that we're reasonable. And if they don't accept the offer to change, then you know you've got very limited choices when it comes to Iran. I don't think they'll change. I hope the the Iranian people will take their government back from the Ayatollah is the ultimate change.
But, I mean, you know, the process of taking this guy down, I mean, it's been a decade where he has been deemed a terrorist and nothing was done. The fact that he was taken out on a road, Route Irish, where I'm told by military people that there's a lot of blood on that road. There were Iranian IEDs on that road, which killed servicemen and leadership in this country. Yes. So tell me what you think about the significance of taking him down where he was taken down in Iraq near the Baghdad airport.
Well, President Trump has really changed the equation here. For the first time in my lifetime, the Iranians are worried about the Americans. Used to be that we were worried about the Iranians exclusively. Now I think they don't know what to do with Donald Trump. The fact that we killed this guy on Route Irish is a big deal. I've been on that road in up-armored vehicles as a reservist. It's a very dangerous place. It was a target of opportunity for Iranian-backed militias against Americans. So he met his death on a road that had been used to kill Americans. So here's the point. Maximum pressure campaign against Iran is working. Their economy is in the toilet. Obama tried to get them to change by giving them a bunch of money and a new nuclear deal. That didn't work. Trump is trying to get them to change through a maximum pressure campaign. What have we learned in the last 48 hours? The maximum pressure campaign has a military component. If the Iranians hit American targets and American interests and American allies, we will respond militarily. If they hit us again, then I would not would not want to be working in an Iranian oil field, because I think the president is determined to bring this regime to its knees if they continue to be provocative.
Yeah, I mean, when the president said those 52 targets, you got to believe that one of them or some of them are oil facilities for sure. Look, we've got a lot to get to with you. I want to talk about this upcoming Senate impeachment trial, but let me just end this conversation on this. There's a lot of pushback this morning against the administration for this move coming from critics. You've got everybody from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I read her tweet earlier to the secretary, to Colin Kaepernick, Senator. Kaepernick writes, there is nothing new about American terrorist attacks against black and brown people for the expansion of American imperialism. Your response?
Yeah, he's a loser on and off the field. He has no idea what the Iranian regime has done to the region. He has no idea that they have 600 American deaths as a result of IEDs made in Iran, used in Iraq. It's un-American. He's a racist. If you're looking for racism in America, Mr. Kaepernick, look in the mirror. Your country's not the problem. It's the Iranians, and you're so blinded by your hatred of Trump that you can't see the difference between who we are and who the Ayatollah is. Pretty sad. So
you don't believe Congress should have been spoken to first before this strike? The president was obviously responding to attacks, but what's your take in terms of Congress?
Well, I've been a military lawyer for 33 years. These troops are in the field at the direction of the Commander-in-Chief with the support of the Congress. You do not need congressional authorization to defend troops in the field in harm's way. AOC doesn't know anything about the law of armed conflict, obviously. Every Commander-in-Chief has the right to defend our people on the battlefield. It was clear to me that this was a defensive strike, that Mr. Soleimani was planning additional attacks against American interest. In AOC's world, I guess we're supposed to sit back and watch a bunch of Americans get killed. We're not the bad guys. The Iranians are the bad guys, and if you don't see that, you've missed a lot in the last 40 years.
Yeah. Senator, let's take a short break. When we come back, Congress is back to work this upcoming week, and we are wondering where this impeachment trial stands. Senator Graham lays it out in a moment. Stay with us. More with Lindsey Graham when we come right back. Welcome back. I'm back now with Senator Lindsey Graham. And Senator, we are waiting on Nancy Pelosi to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate. What are you expecting in the way of a Senate impeachment trial this week or next week?
Well, I hope to have the trial over by the end of January. We'd use the Clinton model, where you take the record established in the House, let the House managers appointed by Pelosi make the argument, let the president make his arguments on why the two articles are flawed. And then we'll decide whether or not we want witnesses, but this should be done in a couple of weeks. I find it a political stunt for Nancy Pelosi not to send the articles over. Mitch McConnell is not going to let her run the Senate trial. Her time is over. It's now time for the Senate to dispose of these impeachment articles with a trial in the Senate. And all I can say about the two articles, they're dangerous to the presidency. Obstruction of Congress in this case is that the president chose to seek executive privilege in court, and they punished him for wanting to go to court. We'll just see what happens.
We'll see what happens, but the rules of impeachment call for the House to send over the articles so that the Senate can be the judge and the jury, and you can't do that until you get the articles. So how are you going to have a Senate trial and get this over with by the end of January when you don't even have the articles?
Well, we're not going to let Nancy Pelosi use the rules of the Senate to her advantage. This is dangerous for the presidency as an institution. They've impeached the president, but the Speaker of the House is holding the articles back, trying to extort from the majority leader of the Senate a trial to her liking. They're trying to hold these articles over the head of the president. I think the reason they're not sending them is because they're so weak, and it's a pathetic case, and they're looking to add something. So the sooner this trial is over, the better for the American people. And so what I would do, if she continues to refuse to send the articles as required by the Constitution, I would work with Senator McConnell to change the rules of the Senate so we could start the trial without her if necessary.
How soon will you move to change the rules of the Senate?
Days, not weeks. What she's doing is bad for the country. It's bad for the Senate. It keeps us from getting on with the business of the American people. It denies the president his day in court. The founders never envisioned you'd have a speaker do something like this, withhold the articles demanding the Senate bend to her will. It's not going to happen, so I hope she sends them over soon so we can get on with the trial. If she does not, I would urge Senator McConnell with my colleagues to change the rules of the Senate so that we could proceed to the trial without Nancy Pelosi being involved.
So are you expecting then that you'll give it a few days to see if she sends the articles over? If she doesn't, you'll move to change the rules? Will you file a motion to dismiss this altogether?
Well, you got to start the trial before you can file any motion. So my goal is to start this trial in the next coming days. Not let Nancy Pelosi take over the Senate. My number one goal is not let the Speaker of the House become the majority leader of the Senate. Senator McConnell has done a great job as a majority leader. I'll be confirming judges this week. But if we don't get the articles this week, then we need to take matters in our own hands and change the rules, deem them to be delivered to the Senate so we can start the trial, invite the House over to participate if they would like. If they don't come, dismiss the case and get on with governing the country. If you don't like President Trump, 10 months from now, you'll have an election. You can kick him out. This is an abuse of power. This is constitutional extortion. What she's doing is very bad for the presidency. It's very, very bad for the Senate as an institution, and it cannot stand.
So getting on with the people's business, does that include USMCA? Will the Senate vote on USMCA this week?
We're going to have a hearing which sets in motion a vote. You know, there's a lot of things I'd like to do. We got to dispose of the trial. They chose to impeach the president, not me. The obstruction of justice article is a complete constitutional joke. Abuse of power. Why did they use that? There is no bribery. There is no quid pro quo. So the reason they did abuse of power is they couldn't prove the other two things. The president did nothing wrong. Abuse of power in this context is impeaching the president because you don't like him. So these two articles are dangerous to the presidency, and we need to have this case disposed of consistent with the Constitution. The trial will be conducted by the Senate, not by the Speaker of the House, and this thing needs to be over with in January.
And 2 weeks ago, you told us that when impeachment is over with, you are going to continue your deep dive into the wrongdoing that took place in 2016 at the top of the FBI and the CIA. What are your expectations there as John Durham continues his criminal investigation? Andrew McCabe recently admitted that he lied after months and months of saying that he never leaked anything to the Wall Street Journal. Real quick on your reaction there. Where are we there?
Well, we're going to call every person who signed the FISA warrant application, starting with Rosenstein and Sally Yates, and work our way down. I want to understand how people signed off on a warrant that was fatally flawed. Did they look at the evidence at all? What kind of system do we have in place to get a warrant against an American citizen? And Durham's looking at criminality. So we'll take this up in judiciary right after impeachment. And one last thought about Soleimani. I can assure the American people he died not because of the color of his skin or because of his ethnic origins. He died because of the content of his character. He was an evil man. He was a terrorist leader. He had American blood on his hands, and I am glad he's dead, and I'm glad we finally got a president who understands that Iran is the cancer of the Mideast, and they must change. The status quo is unacceptable.
Senator, it's good to have you this morning. Thanks so much.